Hi there, Kira here with my project share, layout share for the month of May. So I did a lot more in my Traveler's Notebook this past month just because I did a lot of Traveler's Notebook pages for NSD because it was faster and easier. So my first one, I'm going to start with Citrus Twist and kind of go down through all of my design teams from there. So this was for the NSD challenge that me and Ashley did. We hosted this challenge on the Citrus Twist fan page, and I do have a blog post about this layout. This is the monochromatic challenge, so you can see that I went with pink for this challenge. And I just did this layout about, it's just a picture of my son Fish wearing his sunglasses. This was before we went to the Strawberry Festival. And yeah, I just used, a piece of paper over here and just basically focused. I mean, this was my starting point, and then I just kind of went from there and added touches of gold as my neutral, and that is that. This one, this was Kelly Barron's challenge for Citrus Twist, and it was doing a stamped background, and this was actually a relatively quick layout that I made. I just wanted to get her challenge done, so I kind of copied this Pink Fresh Studio paper, and you're probably familiar with the paper looking at this layout, and I just used the Traveler's Notebook stamp, the May Traveler's Notebook stamp for Citrus Twist. It's like a book themed stamp, so I just kind of journaled about me reading Princess Bride, and I did this background using the Traveler's Notebook stamp, and I just did very minimal embellishing because I wanted the background to be kind of the main focus here. So that's all of Citrus Twist, or those are Traveler's Notebooks for Citrus Twist. This was for the sketch challenge for NSD. I forget who hosted this challenge, but this is also on the Citrus Twist fan page. You can check out the sketch from there as well. And I scrapbooked these photos of my son Elliot. How cute is he in those pictures? It was one of my favorite pictures of him, and I just had to make sure to use this goodness piece as my title here. This one was for Citrus Twist. This is on the Citrus Twist blog. I'll leave all blog posts. I'll link all blog posts down below, so you can check out the blogs to see more details. I don't have a whole lot of process videos this month. I just had a lot going on, so I just didn't film a lot of my layouts, I guess. So this one, I actually took one of the papers from the kit, and it was one of the Heidi Swap papers, and it had this kind of hexagon pattern on it. And so I fussy cut out a bunch of hexagons, and then I cut those because they're like multiple colored hexagons. And I kind of cut along the different colors because there's like almost like diamond shapes and these chevron shapes in there. So I just fussy cut them further and was like, maybe I could do like a little design with those. So I grouped them by color, and then I just started kind of laying them on my paper to see what kind of design I could come up with. And this just kind of came organically. So I was like, okay, well that looks kind of neat. And so I decided to add a little mixed media behind it, going again with the color matching. So I did a little like watercolors, just very light mixed media, and did the packaging technique kind of in the area that I was gonna put these little shapes down. And then I glued them down, tiny bit of glue, and then I did machine stitching just all along them to give it some more texture. And then I just color matched my embellishments and called it done. So moving on to Ink Road stamps. I did a layout, a traveler's notebook spread, and a card for Ink Road Stamps this month. The first one here, this was actually my first time using Copic markers, and I've improved a lot since doing this, but it was fun. I just basically stamped a bunch of these flowers, and I thought it would be fun to kind of just practice my coloring and shading and blending with these flower stamps. And so I just started doing them in different colors, and then I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'll just fussy cut them out and see what kind of layout I could make with them. And I just started laying them out in kind of a wreath design and did some color blocking with some embellishments. So to get the wreath design, I just traced around a bowl or a plate, and then I just kind of started laying everything down and then filling in kind of the empty spaces with some embellishments. The flare are from my friend Becky, and I think it turned out really cute, even though the coloring's not perfect. If you're good at Copic coloring, don't judge me, because this was my first time, but I think it turned out really cute. And then I also did, for Ink Road Stamps, I did this card. This is very similar to my bookmarks. I actually made this card before I made the bookmarks, so the bookmarks kind of came to life because of this card. And hi, thank you. What's this? It's a lunches. Okay. So the card came together first, and then I started making the bookmarks. It's not my favorite. I like the bookmarks better, but I like that I did like this little fussy cut books, and I stamped these little frames from this stamp set, actually. And this little pot and leaves. These are all stamps from Ink Road Stamps. And I will link the blog post down below. And again, I was practicing with my Copic coloring, so it's not great, but it is good practice. So that was that card. And then this was the Traveler's Notebook spread I did. This was for Feature Friday. We used the one with all the stamps. That's what the stamp set's called. It's like a Friends theme stamp, but I wanted to use it in a non-Friends themed way. So I was journaling about how I always take pictures of my son Elliot, and he always does this cheesy little smile every time I hold up my camera. And it doesn't really capture the moment perfectly because he makes these cheesy little faces, but it's really cute because it's just what he does right now. So yeah, I just stamped a repeating pattern on this side with the frame stamp, and then titled it Picture Perfect. And most of the embellishments that you see and papers are from Citrus Twist. So those are Ink Road Stamps. I think, yeah, that's them. Okay. So this next few are from Wild Hair Kits. This one was not using a kit. This was using the exclusive cut file that you can download for free from their blog. So I designed this cut file, but when I was cutting it, I needed to change my mat. Because it like cut up a couple of the flowers when I was cutting it. So I just decided to keep it instead of recutting it and kind of just make it work. So I used some of the flowers that got cut off behind my photo, and I kind of hung the photos from the wreath, and I think it turned out really cute. I used a lot of the Pick Me Up collection from Pink Paisley, and then just a lot for my stash. Like these are like Pink Fresh Studio. There's some Maggie Holmes Carousel in here. This tiny little tag is the Jelly Bean Soup tag. Yeah, it's just very eclectic and fun, and added some white and gold splatters to it as well. So you can download that cut file still. I think it's the May 4th or 5th blog that you can find that cut file. This also for Wild Hair Kits using my May kit. So this one I wanted to do some heat embossing resist on a title. I just got some Zig markers from my friend Jen, and I wanted to kind of play with them and see what I could do. And so I cut out my title. And then I used my stamp set that was included in the kit, and I stamped with some embossing ink these little leaves on my title, and then did some white embossing. And then I used my Zigs to watercolor the letters, and I just kind of stuck with this bluish green color scheme here. And then I hand stitched around them in white. And I'm just scrapbooking this photo of my husband. Thank you, buddy. My husband and my youngest son at the zoo, and just it's just documenting how he's just got quite the I don't know, he's just very strong-willed at this age, much more so than his brother was. So yeah, he's my little wild child. This one also for Wild Hair Kits. This was for the DIY Embellishments Challenge. We always have a challenge every month. So this was for the DIY Embellishments Challenge. And I do have a process video on this, and I think it turned out really cute.
Put on glasses.
Oh, you want me to put on these glasses? I'm not a little fit. But they don't fit.
Oh no, they
don't fit. Silly goose.
No.
This layout also for Wild Hair Kits was my take on the monthly sketch. So the sketch this month was for the sketch challenge winner. So we had a contest for wild hair. You could submit a sketch and you would win a free kit if your sketch won. So the winning sketch I'll post now. It's a little different than my take on it. I went with smaller circles instead of the big circles. I just having a really hard time with the big circles. I really love the sketch. I think it's a really cool sketch, but it was just really hard for me to translate it into a layout. So I did the smaller circles and I just stitched down the center of them, but kept pretty closely to the actual sketch. And so I kept pretty closely to the sketch. There was like 3 circles here with like photos, but I just did one photo. Shh. Okay, buddy. The layout is just about how Fish is a little apprehensive of the splash pad at the farmer's market. Elliot will just go right in. He gets soaking wet, but Fish will usually just stand at the edge for a little bit and likes watching the other kids play. So that's that one. I also did for the Wild Hair Kits. So this one also for the Wild Hair Kits. This is my son sleeping, and we're transitioning from over to no naps during the day. And so sometimes during the day he'll like at bedtime he'll be wide awake still, like it didn't even matter that he didn't have a nap. And then other times he's really tired at like 5 o'clock. And like this night, he fell asleep. He was falling asleep on the couch, and so I was like, okay, well, let's put your nighttime diaper on, because we're still doing diapers at night. And so I put his nighttime diaper on, and then he fell right asleep where I put his butt on. And so I just took a picture of him because it was really funny, and that's what this layout is about. Shh. This one is for the cut shop, and it's another Stay Wild. I really like photos of Elliot and the word wild, clearly. This was using a mix of my Wild Hair Kit and my Citrus Twist kit this month, and then a little bit of my stash. But it's using this cut file, which I don't remember the name of it, but there is a blog post on this, which I will link down below. But the whole cut file says Let's Stay Wild, but I just shortened it to Stay Wild because I felt like the Let's was too big. I could have sized it down smaller, but I had already had it cut out. And yeah, I think it turned out cute. This was for the cut shop. Oh, this was the NSD challenge. So this was for stitching on a cut file. And I tried, I did a few attempts at hand stitching. It wasn't working out, and so I just said screw it and did machine stitching. So I just machine stitched in gold down here. It's very subtle, but I think it turned out really cute. This is, the title's Now and Then, and so I have these pictures of my husband with my oldest son now, and when he was just a baby. So I think that turned out really cute. Also for the cut shop, so I also made this for the cut shop. This was really easy to make, actually. So if you've never done any embroidery before but want to start, you can definitely use your die cut machine to kind of help you along. So I just put my fabric right down on my cutting mat. I have my Cricut do the draw feature for the cut file instead of cut it, and I just use a regular pen because I know I'm going to cover up those lines, so it doesn't really bother me to use a regular pen. And then I just have my Cricut draw the design on there, and then I just did some embroidery. So I did mostly satin stitch and long and short stitch on this, and I think it turned out really cute. And that'll be going to one of my friends, one of my pen pals. She'll know who if she watches this. And then Jilly Bean Soup. I have one other embroidery hoop, which I don't have with me because it was my mother-in-law's Mother's Day gift, but I'll post a picture. But I made 2 cards, a layout, and then the embroidery hoop for Jilly Bean Soup this month. So the embroidery hoop, the same thing. It was a cut file from the Jilly Bean Soup Silhouette store. I just had my Cricut draw it on the fabric. I stitched it, and then I added some felt flowers to it. Really easy, simple gift, and my mother-in-law loved it, so win-win. I made a couple cards. So this card I wanted it to look like a little bouquet of flowers. So I just kind of folded this like craft paper, covered it with a vellum, tied some baker's twine around it. This little tag is part of the stamp set. And then all of these are stamps that were die cut out. And I just created a little bouquet. And then I stitched some white on some craft, and that was that. This was for, we had like a ThermoWeb week on Jilly Bean Soup, and we got some ThermoWeb products to kind of play with. There's a lot of like foil and stuff, which I've never really played with before, so it was a lot of fun to kind of like experiment and see what would work. And I ended up doing, they have like these foam sheets that are like sticky on like both sides. So you can punch them. So I punched it with butterfly punch. You can punch the foam sheets, take the sticky part off, put the foil on, the foil will stick. And then you could take the foil off, or the backing off of the foam, and stick it on something and be like a foam embellishment. But I just kept them, I didn't take the sticky off the back. And then I fussy cut out these butterflies, which is from one of the Jilly Bean Soup papers. And then I stitched them onto the foil, and like color matched them with that. This little Be Bright, Be Happy, Be You, this is fussy cut from a paper. And then the wood grain is one of the papers from Jilly Bean Soup too. And that is that card. And then lastly is this layout that I made for Jilly Bean Soup. This is a layout about how Fish got his nickname. And I actually made a process video for this, but I just haven't edited it yet. I don't know if I will. I just haven't really been in the mood to make process videos. Anyways, if you're interested in knowing how Fish got his name, when I was when I had him, when he was just an infant, I didn't produce enough breast milk, and they just thought that my breast milk was taking a long time like coming in, and so I had to like pump all the time. I was pumping like once every hour, and you know, breastfeeding him, but he wasn't getting enough food. He wasn't getting enough nutrition from me because I wasn't producing any breast milk. When I would pump, it would be like an ounce that I would get from me, so it was a little ridiculous, but they didn't know that they just thought that it wasn't coming in, and so I was like, you know, they were trying to make it come in. And so the lactation consultants, they wanted me to supplement with formula at this time, and so but they didn't want me to bottle feed him yet, because this is when he was still really, really little. So they wanted me to encourage the breastfeeding, and so I would breastfeed, and then they wanted my husband to do the syringe finger feeding with him, because they wanted him to associate the good stuff with me. And so my husband would have to finger feed him after every breastfeeding that I did. And when my husband would feed him, and he'd have him, you know, he'd have his finger in there with the syringe. There's like a little tube that goes in, and then Jonathan would like suck on his finger. And my husband was like, oh, he's like a little fish, a little Jonafish. And so for a while we called him Jonafish, because his name's Jonathan. And then Jonafish just kind of got shortened to Fish, and so that's his nickname now. That's what we call him. If you ask him his name, he will tell you it's Fish or Fishy. That's what he thinks his name is, because that's what he calls him all the time. So that's the story of how my oldest got his nickname. So it's a lot of journaling, a couple pictures of the syringe feeding, and I wasn't a scrapbooker at this time, so I'm really glad that I took these pictures, because it's a good story to have now that we do call him Fish all the time. And I just used this little stamp set and stamped all these little fishes. I just thought they were cute. Some of them are bumped up on foam, some of them are stamped directly onto the paper, and some of them are glued to the paper. I did some mixed media behind it to kind of make it look like water, and I used a lot of embellishments from different collections. You can check out the blog post on this to see all the products that I used on this page, but I think it turned out cute, and I'm glad I have this moment scrapbooked. The last thing I have, oh, this is so wet. This is from the new releases of Colorcast Designs. So I use this little Let's Eat piece. I think this is so cute. There's like all these wood veneers that go with this that are kind of like food themed, and they're adorable. But I used the Let's Eat on this story about Jonathan. So we get these apples, and usually I buy like Fuji apples, which are pretty big, and it'd be great if my kids would let me cut them up so they could eat them, but they don't, so they eat them whole. And so Jonathan basically ate all around the apple, handed it to me, told me he was done eating it, and that he needed another one. I was like, no, this is like an entire apple, it's still there. So yeah, I used that acrylic piece to tell that story. So that's it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, but I will link all the blog posts below so you can see all the details to all these layouts and projects. And you guys have a great day. Bye.